What is up, my party people? I know it's been a while since I posted a video. Just been really busy. Between jobs, doing some exciting stuff, and playing games. You know, the classic trifecta. I did get to commentate in Legendary Wolf Games' 1K event, which was super cool and super. Oh, I just ruined this thing. There it goes. Okay. I got to commentate in Legendary Wolf Games' cool 1K event. And some people had some hot takes to draw from Kirishima being 5 of the 8 top 8 decks. And I wanted to talk about those decks and what you can do to combat people who are going to be in that decking it locally, right? So let's talk about the Kiroshima list. I should probably go grab it, huh? So this is Tony 2's Kiroshima deck that was on the good symbol. And what it was doing was just being Kiroshima, right? He would build that. He would play an attack. He played 100 copies of Coordinated Effort, right? It's a unique that you play 4 of because it's so good. It's got a great block. It checks a 6. It's just a pretty good card. And I'll go into it later, but I think it's actually the one thing with the deck that I have a problem with. But he's only playing 16 attacks in his 51 card deck, right? He gets to get away with playing a chop, ripping 2 cards out of your hand, or dealing 5 or 7, right? And then if you block it, he builds it down, and he plays another attack, right? And he plays jab, he plays Texas Smash, he plays reverse throw. It's a very straightforward, very simple deck. Reverse throw for the mirror, according to Tony 2. But that's just a throw that comes in for 7. That if you block it, builds down because of Coordinated Effort. It's a very straightforward deck. It's a very simple deck. It blocks very well because of things like Specialist of Sound, things like Kirishima existing, and it's just a really cheeky sort of deck. I think that it struggles in a few different places though. Okay, so let's get into that. What does Kirishima do well? Well, he does what I like to call churning butter, right? He can play 4 attacks a turn and ignore progressive on one of them because he builds it down Coordinated Effort. And he's a 5-hander that sees an extra card by building it down and gets to pick up 2. So if he got 2 attacks down there, then it's better than drawing them because he gets to save them for the right time later. So let's talk about 2 things that you should not be doing into Kirishima. Okay, the first thing is do not poke. Don't poke unless you can do it effectively. Okay, without letting him get his enhanced step. So for instance, Aizawa, pretty good at doing this. Ida, very good at doing this. Denki, pretty okay at doing this because he's got cards that say, hey, this isn't a poke, this is me actually building for momentum this turn, and so on and so forth. You should not be poking into him, and you should be respecting his damage output. Don't go down to 0 cards in your hand. Be able to block effectively. Yeah, that's what I think about that. Don't do those 2 things. And what you should be doing is building up to a board state where you can one-shot him. Because the one thing that I saw from these greedy good symbol Kirishimas was that they would go into their turn with 2 or 3 foundations up. And 2 or 3 foundations up does not let you survive against a gigantic Reciproc Extend. Now, can they sit and do, like I said, the churning butter thing where they're just like, well, I'm going to kill you over 3 or 4 turns? Absolutely could. But that's not what these Kirishimas were doing and not what Kirishimas will be doing locally. So I've got a Denki list and I've got a Jiro list that I think that would be very good into Kirishima. And I've tested it into my Kirishima list locally, and they both do really well into it. So what does Denki do that's different and is able to take out a Kirishima? Well, Denki says that if they block hit your charge or stun attack, you get to commit one of their foundations. So if he goes into your turn with 2 foundations and he wants to block, he's gonna have to get his best foundation target stunned. So he says that when I'm ready to go in, I'm going to commit your entire board, right, between stuns and so on and so forth. And then response once per game, after your charge attack deals damage, add all cards from your card pool to your momentum. So I've seen a lot of lists on Chaos that are or Air that are running Uraraga stuff, and I think that they are exploitable, I would say, right? My friend Tamarin Cardwell says it's Mr. Two-Turn because he plays a bunch of the Uraraka 4-5, the Meteor, and then he puts them all into the momentum, and then he picks them up and plays them all again, which is very cool. But I like killing people in one shot, and Kirishima is not prepared for that on a lot of his symbols. So, how do we do that? We have two big dunks here in Tape Swing and Reciproburst. Reciproburst is, of course, the more consistent option here. But the rest of the deck is, and this is not a completed list. I know people are going to be in comments saying, 79 card deck, you suck. This is just, like what I would start with, and then I'd whittle it down from here, right? But I think Reciproburst with 7 momentum is the play here. You want to be poking, and then on your swing turn, you're going to play 3 foundations into an electric jolt. It's going to hit. You're going to put all your stuff into your momentum. You're going to have 5 or 6 momentum, and then you're going to play a Reciproburst for free, right? And or like whatever other attacks into the Reciproburst, right? You're going to flip electric jolt, commit 1 of the foundations, get a speed. You're going to stun 1, get 1 speed, and then you're going to play all your foundations that also give it speed. I think Charged Up is really good for getting even more momentum. When something hits, Requesting Existence, it lets you ready some of your cool cards like Heroic Lineage. It lets you ready Natural Leader. It lets you ready Creepy Realization on defense, which is really good. It lets you ready... oh my goodness. Is Passing the Torch on the list? We need Passing the Torch. Whatever. Anyway. But so you want to make a 20 damage... Reciproburst, which is very easy when you have a 5 or 6 momentum, plus things like Heroic Lineage and Natural Leader. And then you just one-shot the Kiroshima from essentially full. You don't need to do it from full, but you can do it from essentially full. And then the other thing is, this is really good into 7-handers, right? Because 7-handers don't like these effective throws between Caressing Tossed and Tape Swing, Electric Jolt always going to momentum, and so on and so forth. They just don't like dealing with that. And into Kiroshima, you can, if you lose game 1 as Denki, you can decide, oh, hey, I'm going to become Ida. And Ida does a very similar thing, but you sub in your engine rushes, and then you just ship out 8 mid-5s, right? You respond Ida, you give it 3 speed, and then you end the enhanced step as your first enhanced step, and it's an 8 mid-5. And it's pretty good into other matchups where Denki is kind of not as favored, like Aizawa, who can prevent you from ever getting your response. And Nomu, because Ida really has the enough health to be able to tank a partial or 2 against Nomu. But this is a good deck for doing that. I think Indiscriminate Shock is a good follow-up to Reciproburst, because their board's gonna be tapped out at that point if they do ever have a thing with it, and then Indiscriminate Shock is just a very good follow-up, very good closer. It's low like Reciproburst, so it's neat in that way. And I think this is a character that can do that. Is it the only character that can do it? No, of course not. There's plenty of characters that can. I just mentioned Ida. I know that Miles Tyler says that Ida is his go-to for defeating Kiroshima. He can beat them all. I don't know if he can consistently, because, poking him is a bad idea, unless you're running the engine rushes. But it's pretty cool into characters who are, like, greedy with their enhanced steps, like Aizawa, like Kiroshima, and so on and so forth. So I like Engine Rush for that reason. I would never do the Committed Foundation unless I had super big board, and I knew they weren't going to block, or like I could get them to tap out a lot of resources to get baited by it. The other one is Jiro, and I think Jiro is incredibly good against Kiroshima. She can block most of his stuff. She can prevent him from building good things down on defense and on offense. So you can, like, for instance, what I mean by this is that she scouts the top 2 cards of both decks, right? So not only does she have some flash attacks on air, right? This is not the air list. If you want to go check out the air list, you can check out the Jiro video that I made a couple weeks ago. But that deck is also very good into Kiroshima because it doesn't give him an enhanced step, and it's all flash attacks that are high, and that character really wants an enhanced step. He really wants to damage reduce your attacks, and so on and so forth. This deck doesn't do that, but it does make absolutely the most gigantic attacks at the end of chain. And because Kiroshima can't really OTK you if you're being uncooperative, if you're just sitting there and saying I'm not going to die here, you can fuck with him. And on the good symbol, you have the tools to do that. There's a card that you could add that I've been thinking about trying out on the good symbol that I'll tell you about in a second. But the gist here is that you're trying to get as many staff strikes in hand as possible. You play Unwavering Slashes to just draw a million cards. You can play Passing the Torch, discard a card, building Quick Creation, ready your Passing the Torch, draw another one, so you end up plussing one on an Unwavering Slash, and you've got other cards in stage like Destined for Mainstream Success. You can plus even harder, build a huge board until you have your gigantic staff strike turn. And your chain is basically weapon attack or weapon foundation into foundation staff strike, and then foundation staff strike, foundation staff strike, foundation staff strike. And if you've done that, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards in your card pool. So when you finally do get to your last 2 Unwavering Slashes, they have +9, +9, and so on and so forth. And Kirishima loves going into Deadlock, and Quick Creation in Jiro is absolutely unfair, super unfair. If you ever get to the point where you have 5 cards in your card pool and an Unwavering Slash, it's a 20 mid-20. Like actually a 20 mid-20, and nobody can deal with that. Yeah, that's what I think about it. I think that 20 mid-20 beats Kirishima. I think that 2 10 mid-10s following a bunch of 7 and 8 mid staff strikes is a very good thing. It's just, if you don't hit your attacks, it can be a little bit weak. But this is a character that can eat Kirishima alive. She has the health pool to be able to tank a few of those chops and those pummels, and be able to partial block reverse throws and things like that. And it's pretty neat. It's pretty nifty. I think that she can do it. There's other situations that you can do this. Tokiyami's a great character for one-shotting him. He just puts so much damage out on the board. I think that Nomu can do it if Nomu hits a big turn. I think that some matchups where you just like absolutely cannot win against Kiroshima are things like Shigaraki. Not good because he can target pick up his good blocks. I think that Uraraka has trouble because, again, he can target pick up blocks, and you give him so many enhanced steps, and she really needs to poke to survive. But there's certainly tons of stuff in the format that can deal with him. And let's talk about what I think is wrong with Kiroshima. The reason why this character is a problem, in my opinion. So if we look at Kiroshima, right? Once per turn, build the top card of your deck face down. Some of you may not have seen a character in the past whose name is Kuabara. Kuabara does a similar thing to Kirishima. He says, after my attack resolves, I build it to my staging area face down, and in Desperation, he gets to pick it up, right? And Desperation is a mechanic that says if I'm below half health, I get to do this ability, right? So when he's below half health, he gets to pick up that foundation. That seems worse, straight up worse than Kirishima, but Kuabara had this really, really nifty commit foundation thing where he was basically Nomu, except it was printed instead of just 6 damage, right? He just took printed damage from attacks by committing a foundation, and it's very good. But if we go even further back, and this is a character that was banned, by the way, in standard UFS. If you go even further back, there's another character, his name is Maxima, who is very likely the inspiration for Kiroshima. Absolutely, actually. He's very, very similar. He says E5+, if he blocks this attack, your block gets breaker 1, and then E, add 1 foundation from your staging area to your hand. This attack gets +2 or -2 damage. E, discard a foundation. If your non-throw attack deals damage, draw 2 cards. So he's a 6-hander, right? Not a 5-hander. But Kiroshima is a functional 6-hander by building that extra foundation every turn, and functional 7 because he gets to do it on your turn too, right? And Maxima could pick up the foundations as many times as he wanted. This is another character that, of course, got banned, but this is just a really powerful mechanic that's tough to get around. And like when we look at Kiroshima, he's clearly not. He doesn't have as many lines of text as these other characters. He's only got 2. He's not as good as Kuabara was. He's not as good as Maxima. But here is what I think my problem with the character is. Type in this coordinated effort card. It just does too much for them. Kuabara had to be in Desperation. You had to put him into Desperation for him to be turned on, for him to be able to loop attacks, right? Maxima, was a 6-hander and he got so much free value by hitting you and things like that. He was just too much power, right? But coordinated effort answers all of Kirishima's problems. Instead of being proactive, he can just and have to use his own attacks in order to loop them, right? For things like pummel and his jab and so on and so forth that build down or stuff like that. Coordinated effort just builds down whatever you attack with. And it says you cannot block my attacks now because you need to one-shot me, and you don't want to give me enough attacks to be able to kill you on the next turn. And it's kind of a lose-lose situation. And if it were me, I would just ban this card. I think that it's too good. I think that when people are 4xing a unique foundation and not even thinking about it, right? It's not like part of some niche strategy where you need to do something. It's just that good that people are like, oh yeah, I'll play 4 of it. Why wouldn't I play 4 of it? And I'm seeing people play 4 of it in Aizawa. I'm seeing people play 4 of it in a lot of other places. Like it's just too good. Like just say, Jessica should just say, hey, we made a mistake. This card is a little too good. And I think, with Chop too, right? Chop is the most lose-lose situation ever. I think coordinated effort and hard chop were mistakes. Actually mistakes. I think that Chop is so debilitating to play into because of the way that hand size works in this game. You go into their turn with 3 cards in your hand, maybe 2, and Chop says, if you want to block another attack, you got to take this one. And it's too effective, and there's not enough discard hate in this format to be able to deal with it. I would errata this to say if it's completely blocked, and I would ban coordinated effort if it were me. Now, do I think that Kirishima is unbeatable? No, of course not. That's why I was showing you my Denki one-shot deck. I was showing you my Momo deck. I think that there's plenty to deal with him locally. It's just if there's somebody who's being a ninny and is like, oh, I'm gonna play this thing that won, then you can show up with one of these other decks, and you can, if you're like, well, I don't want to play Denki, I don't want to play Jiro, come talk to me. PM me on Discord or send me a message on YouTube or in the comments down below, and we can talk about how to make a deck that'll do it. But yeah, okay. Thanks for hanging out. Sorry for not putting out videos more recently, guys. I'll try to do more. It's just been, trying to oh, if you haven't heard, I'm trying to open a game shop locally in Miami called UnFun Stuff, and that's just what I've been trying to get together recently. If you have any interest in investing, send me a message. But feel free to check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/unfunstuff or twitch.tv/unfunstuff, and give us a like and subscribe and put a comment down if you liked the video. Thanks very much. See you guys later.